welcome to a new episode of our podcast, Stars, Stripes, and Insights. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show today Lucy Chow, a renowned tech investor, business leader, proud mother, and Dubai resident who is here to talk to us about the innovative spaces in business and the intersection of tech, education, and women's empowerment. Lucy, we are so happy to have you today.
Thanks for having me, Jay.
You are one of the OG tech investors in the UAE. I imagine when you came to this space, it was you were one of the few women in particular to work in investment and in tech. And I'd like to know how was that? What was how did you get to this point? And tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. It was really interesting. Maybe 12 years ago, the entrepreneurial ecosystem was just starting to kind of burgeon here, but it was still very new. And it was actually a girlfriend that said, what do you think about putting together an angel network where we would just be focused on funding female founders and all the angels would be female? And I really thought, and I have a banking background, and I really thought in terms of financial literacy, for women, and the opportunity to learn about being an angel was highly valuable. But then on the other side, in being able to build a portfolio of startups and to understand the impact of doing so and really making an impact on a country's economy was huge. So I think it was a real win-win. And so we started the Women's Angel Investor Network. And shortly after that, then the UAE government and MENA in general started to really focus on entrepreneurship and startups in the country.
That's great. Do you mind kind of teasing out a little bit about what it means to be an angel investor?
Sure. So we always say that it is the riskiest part of investing when you're an angel because it's greenfield. Usually, the companies that you're investing in maybe have already had money from family, friends, and probably the entrepreneurs bootstrapped, but that's it. And so you're kind of going in with the belief that that you're going to help this company scale. But it's also the area of investing where there's the greatest amount of failure. And so we always say it's not, it's something you have to really think about in terms of the amount that you're investing. And as you know, in the States, you need to be an accredited investor before you decide to put money into a startup.
You talked about failure, but I know in Changing the Game, the book of essays that you've collated on this topic and among others, there's a lot of opportunity at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you talk to us about those opportunities, and especially in what skills do you think these fields will bring to the workforce?
Sure. I mean, we're talking about gaming and esports. I wear many different hats, and the book is unique in that it's not for someone that wants to be a gamer. It's not a technical tomb. Well, it's actually for anyone that wants to learn about this industry, and it's actually a book that people would pick up that probably normally would not do so if they didn't know anything about gaming and esports. And it was I deliberately curated these 38 essays to be able to answer questions from whether you're an investor, a C-suite executive, a parent, or an educator in terms of understanding why there's this huge rapid growth of this industry and what does it mean to the future of work. Now, going back to your question about being an investor, there is a whole segment in the book about investing in esports and gaming. And so, for instance, where we sit in MENA, for instance, Saudi and the UAE have both made it national priorities to invest in this sector, in the gaming sector. So, for instance, the Dubai Gaming Program 2030 is huge, right? The aspirations are to create jobs, to upskill individuals, and to personalize games to fit into the MENA culture. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, in terms of personalization of games, adding cultural references that don't exist. And for instance, just to give you a stat, only 1% of games are in Arabic. Only 1%. So that's a huge opportunity because the MENA region is a huge, large sector for revenue generation.
Yeah, these stories need to be told.
Yes,
right?
yes.
We need to see them on screen.
When you hear some of these statistics, then people are like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that." And the other one that I think maybe now more and more people know about is that the revenue generated from games is greater than the music and the movie industry combined. Now that's huge, and it's like a fivefold difference.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
huge.
You touched briefly on education.
Yeah.
I know you're a passionate advocate for education.
Yes.
You are on the board of the
American
School Dubai.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I hope to send my kids to someday.
That's
so
awesome.
we could talk about that later.
That's awesome.
As someone who I'd like to understand gaming in education.
Yeah.
Like as a concrete tool.
Yeah.
Could you give me an example right now
Sure.
of a game being used?
Sure. So I want to first of all say that if we talk about esports, any team sport is highly valuable in terms of the skill sets it provides to a student, and esports is no different. Okay. Now I can actually give you a very fabulous example that's taken place for many years at our school, at the American School of Dubai. We have a fabulous teacher that utilizes Minecraft to teach social studies. So so Minecraft is a world building game, and social studies obviously is about learning about the world and geography, and his course is phenomenal, and that the kids utilize Minecraft and they build different worlds, and he'll assign specific things that he probably wants in the world.
And can you build actual
Yes,
objects and build
yeah,
them?
no,
Yeah.
Minecraft is, and most people say, what game should my kids start with? And they could start as young as 7, playing Minecraft, and Minecraft is amazing because it's there's a reason why it's used by, for instance, the Architectural Society of Chicago. It's utilized for it's used by many educational institutions. Actually, it was purchased by Microsoft. So you will start seeing it in a lot of schools. It's already been implemented and used for learning in a lot of schools. But also when you're playing Minecraft, you're calculating and you're learning, you're doing math and you don't even know it, because when you see the kids building, they have to calculate, but they're just doing it and building, and it's seamless. And it's fun, which is so important for education.
I have a 6-year-old, so at 7, it's
Perfect.
time.
Yeah.
One more year? I'll
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
her.
Or you could show Minecraft worlds to him or her.
Sure.
And yes, I bet they would immediately understand it and want to play. Yeah.
What's your favorite game?
So when our son was born, we bought a PlayStation, and so we started playing Mario racing, and I'm not good at it at all. I'm not good at any games really at all. But I'll tell you another interesting anecdote, or actually something that's very interesting. I always say that some of the oldest gamers I know are like my parents, like they're like 80, or other people's parents. And what do they play? They play games like Wordle. So this is telling you, and this is another sort of spotlight I want to shine on games. Games are not just like first-person shooter games, right? There's like so many different categories of games. Like there's like 170 agricultural games, right? There's what I call games for good. There are ambient games where you go forest bathing like you would in walking through the forest in Japan. And so Wordle, if you play Wordle, you're a gamer. You're what we call a casual gamer.
Right. The U.S. mission was fortunate to participate in the Dubai Esports Festival.
Yes.
We were also we did a Games for Change Summit in Abu Dhabi. So
Okay.
this space is interesting to us. We're trying to help and work with American companies and the UAE in developing this space. It's very exciting.
No, I love it, and I love the whole Games for Change concept, right? Where, for instance, one of the authors in the book, Kayla Moon, she's a movie director. However, when she was a little girl growing up in Canada, her dad took her out into the forests, and she would collect leaves and acorns and so forth. And we now, you probably know, our youth and particularly in hotter climate countries like here, are suffering from something called nature deficit. So she built this game called Tree Tap Adventure, and it gets kids back outside, and they're collecting things. And when they get to the highest level, a tree is planted in real life.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so that's an example
Yeah,
of a game for good.
that's great. Another thing the U.S. mission is doing or planning to do is in September we have a We Empowerment Summit, this Women's Economic Empowerment
right.
Summit planned in September that we're very excited about. It brings government stakeholders, private sector together,
Yeah.
focused on empowering women entrepreneurs. And this is
Awesome.
an issue dear to your heart. I saw you speak prior where you mentioned that less than 2% of female-founded businesses receive seed funding.
Yeah.
What can we do to move the needle on this? And maybe you can give us some advice before the summit as to how we can help focus on this problem.
Well, first of all, congratulations on putting together a very topical and worthwhile summit, Jay. I look forward to attending.
Yes.
I hope I'll be invited.
Yes.
But you know, and just to add one more statistic to that, in MENA, when unfortunately the funding for female founders between 2023 and 2022 dropped from 2022, to 2023, dropped like by 60%. Like it was harsh. And so what we need to do are a few things, okay? The very obvious is we need to move more funding towards female founders. So I always had been talking about startup capital. That's the place, an area that I play a lot in, right? Making sure there's at least seed funding, because if you don't get that, you don't get a unicorn ever. However, what we're also butting up against is not only a lack of startup capital, then we now are in a stage where the companies get to the next, they're ready for the next big thing, but there's no follow-on money. Okay, so a lot of my time is spent trying to get more money to female founders, full stop, okay, at whatever stage. One way to do that, we realize, is to try to get more women to be the check writers.
Sure.
So you start as an angel, but then you become an LP in funds, and maybe you want to become a GP and you start your own fund. So because we see that if there are more women in feces, there are feces that have female GPs, and statistically, when that's the case, you see more money going to female founders when there's female GPs in the decision-making process. Okay, so that's one way. The other, very, very importantly, and again, it still ties back to fundraising, I always say don't wait until you need money to build up your network. So start going out there and start meeting potential investors. Start really understanding the ecosystem. Talk to other founders that have raised. Ask them about their experiences. Ask them who you should be talking to. Build up that network before you need it. And that goes for male or female founders, actually. That your network is your net worth, and it's very important to focus on that. And I think we're getting better in the region in terms of frankly, there are lots of opportunities here because there's lots of events. But female entrepreneurs, female founders need to make sure they get access, and they make sure they attend events like that put them in touch with potential individuals that might not only be funding their company in the future, but could be future advisors or board members.
I'm really happy we touched on this because I'd like to end maybe with one piece of advice
Sure.
that you could give a budding woman entrepreneur. I know you've been a mentor and strategic advisor for a long time. What would you tell that new entrepreneur?
Yeah, I would say to start, right? To just go ahead, and if you have an idea, invest the time in yourself, in making a business plan, and just start, because we never feel we have all our ducks lined up in a row, right? But the best thing is to feel confident, have a business plan so that everything is thought out. But it's also making sure that you're giving yourself that time and space to come up with the best business that you could grow out there. And also, I really am fortunate to be able to have a platform so that I can advocate and appear and talk on podcasts. I would also say, if and when given the opportunity, make sure that you take it as a female founder to speak, or just make sure you blog a lot or you write a lot in your LinkedIn, so that people start understanding who you are and what is your area of passion and focus. Because having a platform is really important when you are fundraising. If someone's heard you talk about your company on a radio show, for instance, it just makes it that much easier for them to think, oh, okay, I've heard of this company before.
Lucy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Jay.
It was a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for all your work.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was an honor to have Lucy Chow with us today, a true pioneer in advocating for women entrepreneurs, and an investor, and as a mentor. We look forward to seeing her at our We Empowerment Summit, and all of you too.